To order on Tuesday, September 1st. It is 7 p.m. And can I get confirmation of appropriate meeting notice, please?
The meeting was noticed here at City Hall at the Piggly Wiggly and Dave's Ace Hardware.
Are we approving the agenda?
Sure. Yeah, we added that. Just because everybody always thought we.
Oh, okay.
Anyways.
All right. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda? No. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second to approve the agenda. All those in favor? All those opposed? We have an agenda. Number 3, public comments regarding items which can be affected by council action. Are there any presenters signed in to speak?
No.
Is there anybody that wants to speak at this time on anything that's on the agenda? Okay, there will be an opportunity at other times during the meeting for you to speak on a particular item if you would like to do so later in the agenda. Is there anybody that would like to speak on an item later in the agenda? Okay. Number 4, approval of the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? All those opposed? The motion carries. Item number 5, discussion and direction on 2016 budget allocation for the Janesville Milton Transit Service.
Thank you. As you've seen in your packet, and as we've kind of discussed over the last week or so, there has been a prescribed change to the Janesville Milton Whitewater or transit route, or commonly referred to as the Innovation Express. In 2016, it appears at this time that service will not continue to the city of Whitewater. Generac, as a sponsor of this program, has declined to re-up their contribution in 2016, so the service will no longer travel to Whitewater. So in discussions with JTS, and Rebecca Smith from JTS, the director for Janesville Transit System, is here as well. In discussions with her, we've talked about a number of options, variety of different and alternate routes, service package, service delivery, and what it may look like in Milton in 2016 if we are to continue this service in Milton. So throughout several discussions, we came forth with the 4 options that were included in your package. And I'll just kind of briefly describe each one. Option number 1 would basically be designed to serve Freedom Graphics, and designed around Freedom Graphics' schedule of operations, their shift work. Option number 2 would be an attempt to serve the general public and use routes that are more conducive to folks who would be looking to travel to and from Janesville for either shopping or appointments or things of that nature. And then option number 3 would really be a combination of both of those. It would serve Freedom Graphics, but also provide a route that would help potentially serve citizens of Milton and Janesville who are looking to travel back and forth, not necessarily for work, but for maybe convenience, shopping, entertainment. And then option number 4 would be the elimination of the route. As you can see included in the packet, the costs associated with each one of those options. Obviously, as the number of routes increase to Milton above what we currently have, the cost is going to increase. Unfortunately, with the removal of Whitewater from it, even to keep things just the way they are would be an increase in costs. So that's why we developed a couple of options that the council may wish to consider. The reason that we brought this forward tonight, kind of in advance of the budget, was to look for some maybe possible direction from the council on what they would be willing to not necessarily commit to this evening, but to get feedback from the council, let JTS hear that feedback, so we can maybe design something in our budget process, as well as for Janesville's benefit as they develop their budget as well. So we're looking for any kind of feedback or direction the council may have. And as I noted, Becca Smith from Janesville Transit is here as well. So if you have specific questions about the route, how the route may change and things of that nature, she could be able to help us answer those questions as well. So that's all I have for a presentation if folks have questions.
Option 2, you mentioned it was designed primarily to serve Freedom Graphics.
No, option 1 is designed primarily to serve Freedom Graphics. Option 1 was the Freedom Graphics route.
Okay.
Yep.
Have they been approached to see if they're willing to contribute?
Yes, we've had a couple discussions, 3 or 4 discussions face to face with Freedom Graphics now. They have indicated that they would be willing to contribute some level, but they have not committed to what that may be. It may be originally they talked about $5,000. Last time Rebecca and I met with them, which was last week, they indicated that they might be willing to go more than that. I asked them if they would be able to kind of commit to what that dollar value would be in time for tonight's meeting, and I haven't heard anything in response. So they've expressed verbally that they may be willing to commit some funds.
What about Blackhawk? Would they?
Blackhawk Tech has not been a sponsor of this activity up to this point. I did talk with and they had indicated, as folks may be aware, they have a shuttle service that goes back and forth between their County G campus in Milton, and that's been a heavily utilized service because it's much more flexible than the transit route. When I talked to Blackhawk Tech last week, they said they'd get me some numbers by tonight, and they got me those numbers today, and they felt that there was potential one rider per day was using the current transit service to serve Blackhawk Tech.
But didn't Blackhawk Tech, they've increased their classes for this fall though, haven't they? So really they may not know exactly.
Correct, yeah. So they've been up and running now for 2 years. They've increased their service level yet again this September. But at this point, based on their information, they feel that they have maybe one rider a day.
No, but.
And I know Mark and I talked about that. Becca, do you have answer that question? Was there a commitment from JTS to Blackhawk Tech? I know that has been brought up before, but I don't think that actually, I don't think a legally binding obligation exists, if that helps.
Thank you. Thank you, Al. Rebecca Smith, Janesville Transit. Janesville Transit has no legal or contractual obligation to BTC for providing service to the BTC campus here in Milton.
I just thought that that's one of the reasons that they came here, was because we were offering the Innovative Express. But I do have another question though. I was wondering if there was ever any conversations with UW Rock County. And I'm wondering too, because I know that there's people in Milton that use the bus service for doctor's appointments. Have there been any conversations with Dean or St. Mary's or Mercy?
At this time, we have not had discussions with any of the medical clinics. Those agencies don't sponsor any of the other city bus routes that we have that actually go straight to their facilities. So I don't really see that as a likely option for sponsorship. And with UW Rock, they do provide sponsorship of our route that goes to Beloit because they are located right on that route. There hasn't been discussion about having a sponsorship for this route to Milton. I'm not sure if the level of usage coming from Milton, if they would feel that would be necessary.
We started a transportation service because there was a need in the city for it. And I feel like if we just stop this service, then we're basically taking a step backwards. I would like to see us do some conversations with Whitewater, maybe the city of Milton and the city of Whitewater. I don't know if you've been able to do that, Anissa or Al. I know that Brett did initially.
There really is not interest at this time. I mean, we certainly can try again, but my understanding is that they have, monetary budget concerns too. So I doubt that they would want to sponsor something that probably doesn't seem to that they would get enough out of it that they would put into it.
Yeah, I mean, we've met with Whitewater on a number of occasions over the last, even in the year that I've been here. And, ultimately it came down to a budget decision for there. And, and I think it's important for this body to remember that we do not control JTS. We may have the best intentions, we may have the best ideas, well, not, you know what I mean. We may have great ideas, but it ultimately comes down to JTS. They are the service provider. They're the ones who own the assets, own the facilities. So, this is a service that they're looking to partner with the city of Milton to provide to Milton residents. So, it comes down to dollars and cents for JTS too. And the more we try to stretch in order to get those extremely fringe elements, the harder it's going to be to provide the service for an affordable cost. Freedom Graphics is a substantial user to this service. They have had over 5,000 trips just this year alone. So that is a substantial number. But as I pointed out in the memo, the question comes down to, where's the dollars best used? Where are the public dollars best used to provide a public service to the public in this case? So I just wanted, that's an important element of this conversation. But ultimately, it's JTS who is the service provider. We don't own any of their assets. We don't control their scheduling. They want to be a willing and active partner, but we can't expect them to kind of cater to all of our needs.
So I just have a question. Right now, what is our contribution to it?
$30,112.
So option 2, actually, we have service, and it decreases the amount that we would be paying. It wouldn't be catering to Freedom Graphics schedule, but it would provide us service for our residents.
Correct. Option number 2 would continue to provide service to the community, and it would and we would work with JTS to develop those times that it would service the community. But with the goal in mind of that option to really be to serve those public users who are looking to travel back and forth between Janesville for recreation, entertainment, shopping, potential medical appointments, things of that nature. But it wouldn't be designed in the same way that option number 1 is, where it really caters to that one industrial user and their specific shift schedules.
Do you have ridership figures in the last 6 months?
I do have some ridership figures. And one thing, Mrs. Clark, I wanted to just share as follow-up related to the medical facilities. I can share with you as well that both Dean St. Mary's and Mercy are very high-quality partners that we have. They sell our bus tokens and other things at their facilities. They provide bus shelters right on site. So I just wanted to share that with you, that they are very supportive of JTS services. I do have some ridership data that I can share. This would be statistics through the first 7 months of 2015, so through July of 2015. So we did have 6,000 or about 6,300 weekday JMW passengers. So those are people riding those Monday through Friday, early morning, midday, evening trips. We did have a few passengers on Saturday, about 90 passengers in the first 7 months. That service is sponsored by UW Residence Hall at the UW Whitewater campus, and that only runs when school is in session. Then starting the year through early May, we had about 60 riders on that Sunday evening trip. That trip was taking place to serve those third shift workers looking to get to Generac in the evening. And that trip actually was temporarily eliminated in May once Generac indicated they would no longer have riders that time of day due to some employment levels that they had. So we were looking at about almost 6,800 passengers in the first 7 months of 2015 for those full trips to Milton and Whitewater. Let's see. And then we also, on our Milton-only trips, those are the mid-morning and mid-afternoon trip that we provide when BTC is in session. We had a little over 300 riders on those. Is that the information helpful to you?
Is there any way you can tell how many are just our local citizens?
We don't keep track. When a person boards the bus, we don't ask them their residency or things like that. There is some data that maybe I can share with Al. We do what we call on and off counts. So if someone's picking up the bus in Milton, maybe that's a good chance that maybe they're from Milton and picking it up there and maybe heading to Janesville. And at the same time, that person would also be at some point then getting on the bus in Janesville and coming back. So we do have some kind of on and off data, but if you can picture if you've ridden a train or a bus, we don't ask where you're from. As long as you can have a token, a pass, or you want to pay with cash, we'll happily take you on the bus.
Yeah, there's probably some way you could, derive in not necessarily, factual ways, but through statistical significance, you could probably see how many people are getting on in Milton are most likely Milton residents. But that's tough to say as well, because when the Freedom Graphics shift gets done and, they ride the bus back home, they're not a Milton resident. So short of asking them, I don't think you'd ever get any kind of, really tangible data. It'd be tough, yeah. I mean, I'm sure the bus drivers probably have a good idea. When they see, a person get on, they know, but it'd be hard to quantify that statistically.
Yeah, it's difficult, to say something absolutely official. One thing we do, we routinely take onboard surveys, and if we would have service in Milton in 2016, we could ask a question like that. We usually take data entry for over a 3-day period, and then you can make some generalizations about the demographics of those riders. So that maybe could help to the residency question. Sure. We had a little over 6,300 weekday JMW passengers. So those are the buses that start. We have one that's early morning, 5 a.m., one midday, one evening trip. Each of those trips starts either at the job center or downtown Janesville, stops at the mall, Van Gelder, Walmart in Janesville, comes through Milton, and then heads on to Whitewater. So that's either anyone that boarded anywhere along that route. That's what that 6,300 represents. Then, like I said, a little over 300 passengers that rode on those Milton-only trips, Monday through Friday, twice a day, only when BTC is in session. Is that helpful?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Do we have maybe Al would know more so than her, but do we know how often Freedom Graphics uses, or what their numbers are?
Based on the information that I think, Rebecca was sharing she shared that information with me last week, and what we could derive is, again, there was probably about 5,000, we estimate about 5,000 riders this year. That's 5,000 trips. So it's, it's hard to, it's most likely the same person Monday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, or some, derivation of that. But 5,000 trips have been either generated or ended at Freedom Graphics this year. Is that right?
Yeah.
I guess what I would like to suggest is, first of all, I like option 2. I don't think that we should go backwards. I just have a real problem with that because we worked hard to get to the point where we have a bus service. But then I was also kind of wondering if for the rest of 2015, if we could get some more detailed information of exactly who our Milton riders are, just so we can kind of decide maybe at the end of the year or January, is this really, once we get some more details, is this really what we want to do?
When do you need to know by?
Sure. Similar to, I think, the city of Milton, this is our budget season. I was sharing with Al, ideally I would hear some general direction from the city of Milton here in the next week or so that I could finish preparing my budget. Once the budget's approved by the Janesville City Council in November, with receiving such a high level of state and federal funding, we then turn around and complete our operating assistance grants with the state and federal government to stay in compliance so we can take advantage of those grant opportunities. And everything builds upon itself. So I can't figure my gasoline budget for the year until I know my mileage. And what is mileage based on? A level of service. So it all kind of goes hand in hand. Having said that, I want to be a good partner and I want to work as much as we can to get a good product that people are satisfied with. I can share with you that, at the end of January, if you come forward and say, okay, now we thought we wanted a service and now we don't, that would be, a significant issue that would require a budget amendment, redoing of the operating assistance grants I just completed. Now, certainly all of those things are possible, and I think the contract clause we've had in the past, does give away out of a year contract, but going into a process that would not be an ideal kind of way of doing business. If that helps kind of paint the picture of, how we put together our service levels.
So is there a general consensus of the council that you want to move forward with some sort of service, or do you want to make a motion to cut all services? Would you like a motion for that?
Sure.
Can we do a motion for that
That's Mark.
or not?
Well, again, what they're looking for is some direction on your general consensus. I don't think that you necessarily want to make a commitment to your budget at this time in the form of a motion. I think you're just correct. You're just looking for some kind of consensus from the council, so I think that would be adequate as opposed to a formal motion.
Yeah, I mean, I as much as I assume JTS would want a formal motion so they could just put things in motion.
Yeah.
The reason that I titled this item "Discussion and Direction" was really to hear the discussion here, and what I would intend to do is I've heard a couple people say option 2. If that is indeed the consensus, and we will need to take a vote on it, I would continue to work with Rebecca, and I would continue to work with Freedom Graphics as well, to see if they would be willing to, what level would they truly be willing to commit to. And, I've reached out to other industrial users as well to gauge their interest. So we would continue to work on this and see if there's a way that, we could expand this service or keep things, keep things going, understanding that, generally the council was comfortable with 30,000. Going beyond that might be a little bit more difficult, but those are the kinds of things that I think are important for at least JTS and I to hear tonight, so we can carry on these conversations. And Dan, since he's going to be the one who's building a budget with a number that could be anywhere from 0 to 68,000. So
I'm pretty sure I'm not comfortable with 68,000 for the record.
I mean,
So-
when you're looking at surveying people, I'm not sure exactly what you can ask, but is it possible to do something like, asking them to give their zip code and rationale for taking the bus? Is it leisure, medical, or just a few general areas that would determine the rationale?
And certainly when we do our surveying, we ask, what is the purpose of your trips?
Okay.
And when we did our surveying in last year, what we found, this route being so focused on people heading to work. And that's because who are the people we're surveying, or who are the people that are riding? And it tended to be those Freedom Graphics workers and workers at Generac. And so, of course, they're using this service to get to work.
And if we remove primarily the work, if that doesn't work out, then what else is left?
Right.
What are those primary?
Yeah, I think I can do some kind of discussions with our planner that handles a lot of our scientific or our onboard surveying to kind of get a feel of what's the best way. Is it a write-in? Is it a zip code? Yeah.
I mean, we don't want to be too intrusive, but we
Yeah.
do want to find out.
And certainly completing the survey is optional. We find that people are generally willing to do that, but yeah, sometimes people don't answer certain questions. But then that's also a record in of itself. 15 people chose not to respond.
So in your experience, was it the routes that we have currently, they're very geared towards a work schedule. So is it possible that ridership would increase with residents if there was a more flexible schedule that fit people's needs?
Sure, I think there's a few components that I have seen related to the JMW first, and this isn't something we've been able to get over, but I think every year of the service has been a different service level. So there isn't that consistency of trips. If you think of the Milton Avenue route, every half hour that bus is in the same spot, and it's been that way for over 100 years. We have a long service of history of service and a very set schedule. So people kind of get used to a schedule. And with JMW, based on the different sponsorship levels, different needs, the service has changed every year, which I think contributes to some of that difficulty in gaining ridership. I think another thing that we have to be cognizant of is when we have schedules that are based on shift work, that's really not going to serve pretty much anyone else in the community. Not too many people that want to get on a bus at 6 a.m. to go to Walmart or to come to the Milton Pig. It's just not a conducive time. The other thing is with having like 3 full trips a day. If you're coming into Janesville or you're coming to visit Milton, you're staying for a long time because we have those larger gaps of time, right? If somebody's working 8 hours, it's 8+ hours between those trips. And that's where those community trips or those Milton-only trips have come into play here in Milton, because we do offer, when BTC is in session, that midday and that mid-afternoon. Somebody wanted to take the midday to Janesville, they could do that. They could come back at the noon trip or come back in the early afternoon. Or likewise, somebody wants to come to Milton, go to your nice splash park, they can do that and go back. So that's a benefit of having those trips in the midday. It's a time of day when people are more likely to travel. And then option 2 does provide year-round service versus just when BTC is in session. So that also helps. Sometimes when it's spring break week in March, people aren't always thinking about that school schedule when they're thinking about traveling. So to be able to have that year-round, I think, will be a plus.
The reason I brought up option 2, it does provide 2 weekly trips. So those folks who have to set up appointments and need that bus, they can use that 2 a day and make their appointments to match that route. It gives them an option.
I like option 2 also. I agree with Linda that we don't want to go back. I mean, this is something that we want to be able to offer our residents, and it's an option that makes Milton attractive to have public transit available. So I agree that we should continue to look for a way to keep this going.
If I could add one other thing, we are looking at our advertising and our ability to get the community to know about the route. We have pricing from the Milton Courier for their online ads, for some of their seasonal publications, to kind of get something set up. We do a lot of web advertising in Janesville, and we would like to do the same thing here in Milton if service continues. Also looking at Passable, is there something with the Chamber of Commerce, a special event we could help sponsor? They have maybe like a weekly newsletter. We didn't see any advertising in that, but kind of reaching out and seeing what we can do to make the service known here in Milton.
Okay, is that sufficient?
That's sufficient for me. I would also just like to say, working in municipal services for a few years, I understand the significance of the budget process, and your willingness to take a look at this here in September is very much appreciated by myself.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Item number 6, discussion and possible action on potential Merchant Row street resurfacing and Crossridge Park Trail extension projects.
As folks who were sat in the Public Works meeting that we just had about an hour ago, Howie had mentioned that the Parkview Drive resurfacing project came in under budget. That combined with the remainder of our street repaving budget, we're estimating about $20,000 left over in that. We took a look at what could we potentially do for those dollars that are left over in 2015 in the amount of about $80,000. So staff got together and looked at a number of projects that are around town and really came up with these 4 kind of projects that have been listed as projects that have been a priority projects for the city of Milton for some time, and are looking to get kind of input on these 4 projects this evening. And when I say input, generally what I mean is this something that you would like us to pursue? Is this something that you are comfortable with, the expenditure of these funds for these projects? The 4 projects that we're really looking at, first being the Cross Ridge Park Trail Extension. This would be an extension of the existing asphalt trail that currently kind of loops outside of the park along Parkview Drive. This would provide an extension that would bring that trail right into the playground and also make it ADA accessible, which is an important issue for the park. It's something that we'll have to do at some point anyways, and we would be able to do it with this funding source. The second project that we described was the resurfacing or repaving of North Street. North Street is a very small street segment that is located perpendicular to or intersection with Madison Avenue near the wastewater treatment facility. Howie has provided some pictures in the packet to show kind of the state of disrepair of that street. Although it's not a heavily trafficked street by civilian traffic, it is a street that gets a fair amount of traffic from heavier truck traffic and things going to serve the wastewater treatment facility as well as the DPW garage. So it would be a street that isn't seen by the public, but is one that would have an impact on service provisions. And then the last 2 are somewhat kind of inherently tied together. There has been a lot of discussion since I have been here and probably long before I came about the state of Merchant Row and the street along Merchant Row as well as the parking lot in Merchant Row, the public parking lot in Merchant Row. So Howie went out and got a couple of quotes on what it would take to resurface Merchant Row, the street, and as well as the parking lot. And I know that has been an issue that has been talked about with me from members of DDAC and the Junction Square side of town as an area of great need. So we had Howie get some quotes on that, and they came back at roughly $30,000. Knowing that was in excess of the bidding threshold, we knew that that's something that we'd have to likely put off until 2016. But I think that that's probably a good idea because that will also allow us time to establish the Junction Square plan, and if there's any major changes that we would like to see in the traffic patterns of that side of town, we could take that into account as well in the engineering of that project. But also allow us to really take care of the curb and gutter that is also in pretty bad shape over there. If folks have noticed that kind of center walkway that exists between the Merchant Row Street and the Merchant Row public parking lot, especially where the light pole bollards are, that curb and gutter has been really depressed and kind of broken and fragmented. And I think, if we're going to do this, we should do it right, and we should do it as a kind of a holistic approach to really give that side of town the treatment that it deserves and really get it on par with the Parkview side of town. So we have the potential to have both downtowns be repaved and look brand new, basically within about 8 months of each other. So these are the projects that we have talked about. Obviously, the great benefit that we have in this situation is that these are funds that have already been budgeted, but due to projects coming in under budget, we have these funds that we could be used to serve other areas of the community without having to levy more dollars on taxpayers or have to borrow more dollars, which would be difficult for us at times. So, bringing this forward for your feedback, for your recommendation. If there's a strong desire to see these projects, we'll move forward with these projects. Or if there's other areas that you'd like us to look at, we certainly would be willing to take that feedback as well and look at getting quotes. But ideally, we would like to do the Cross Ridge Park and the North Street yet this fall, and then bring back Merchant Row next spring. Well, we bring it back this winter with a hope for a spring construction. So any comments, questions, concerns, or suggestions would be appreciated at this time.
Just a generic.
If we didn't repave any of these things and tried to, budget it in the future years, say sooner than later, or we pick to choose our battles here, does the savings perhaps then go towards next year's budget?
Well, partially yes and partially no. You asked a generic question, I'll give you a generic answer. No, I'm just kidding. The street resurfacing budget, the $20,000 that's left over for the street resurfacing, that would basically just go to general fund reserves. As far as the borrowed funds, the ones for Parkview Drive, we would have to, we could use that to potentially pay, we could pay that money back to the bank. Or utilize that for another project that we would have to, another like project.
Okay.
Does that answer your
does.
question?
So Dan, can you tell us what like projects are?
Any kind of road project. We left the language very generic, but anything street and road paving related.
So what would be the impact if we just use this money and put it back towards the loan? I mean, what's the difference in our debt service, or what percentage, or?
Very nominal, because I'd probably talk to the two banks and restructure to spread that 60 grand over the next 10 years. So we'd probably see like $6,000 to $7,000 savings every year.
I would then mention, the 60 grand, doing it now or in the fall or early spring with the money already borrowed, it's probably the most cost effective way to do it at any time then.
Yes, because again, if we were to go back, it would be difficult for us to borrow again. And, I certainly wouldn't be in favor of levying for these dollars, in a future year, especially with the difficult budget situation that we're facing next year. So I think to answer your question, with somewhat of a subjective answer, yes, I think this is probably the cheapest route to do that.
More. You said 20,000 could go towards the general fund. So if we picked and choose these projects to equal the 60,000 you suggested, we would have to pay back. Would the remaining $20,000 go to the general fund?
Yes, yeah. And what Howie and I have talked about, and Dan and I have tried to strategize, is if we are to move forward with these projects, we would use the $20,000 that is left from the street resurfacing to tackle Cross Ridge Park and North Street this year, and then save the $60,000 for next year to do Merchant Row and the parking lot. And at that time, then we could combine those with some additional TIF funds if necessary to complete those projects, like I said, kind of in that holistic approach to do it right one time as opposed to piecemeal over time. So that was kind of our method, or at least our methodology behind it, and what we would be suggesting we would do, or how we would break those dollars up.
I think that this is a good use of what we have set this money aside for to begin with. Are you looking for a motion then?
Are you?
No, I mean, similar to the last discussion, again, I get the sense that there's pretty good consensus on this one, that we would like to see these projects move forward. So looking forward then, on September 15th, what we would do is we would bring back an actual bid or quote that this council could enact or could act upon on September 15th for North Street and for Cross Ridge, with the understanding that the Merchant Row items will be coming back this winter. I don't know, January, February, something around there. But that's basically what we're looking for at this time. So there'll be a quick turnaround on it.
So do you need a motion for them to go out to bid or anything like that? We don't need that.
Well, they're not going out for bid. They'll be seeking proposals because they're under the $25,000 limit, and they're different projects, so they don't need to go with that. The city will be publishing, and I'm working with Lena on this, the city will be publishing a Class 1 notice of the city's intent to let contracts for these specific projects, but that would be it. Doesn't necessarily commit the city to do that, but just it gives public notice that the city's going to be considering it at the next meeting. So you don't need to make a motion. If you want to make one, it'd be merely just to direct the staff to continue to move forward on the proposed, Crossridge Park and North Street projects, and then they'll proceed as I just indicated.
Well, I guess if we don't need a motion, we don't need a motion. You're just really messing with me tonight.
Minutes shorter, I
I guess one comment I do want to make is I am very supportive of us reinvesting in our downtowns as a way to draw people to Milton. It's good to reinvest and invest in what you already have existing to make that more attractive to everyone. So I think this is a good move. General consensus. Let's move on to item number 7, discussion and possible action authorizing updated average daily traffic counts within the city of Milton.
For this item, we received, we've been in discussions about this, again, I keep saying this, but for as long as I've been here and probably longer before that, we knew that there was going to be an understanding that we would do updated traffic counts once traffic was more normalized after the bypass project was completed. We did traffic counts back in 2013, shortly after the bypass was opened, and we'd like to come back and do new updated traffic counts to see how traffic patterns have changed in and around the city of Milton. In 2013, we did traffic counts at 6 specific intersections, which I've included in the packet, and we'd like to actually add 2 more intersections on that, right out here in front of City Hall on St. Mary's and 59, as well as Clear Lake and 59. That would give us probably a pretty good picture of where we're at in the community post bypass. The nice thing about this as well is we have received a proposal from Baxter and Woodman, our city engineer, to provide this service for us, and the MPO, the Janesville area MPO, would be covering 80% of that cost. So the city would be only responsible for $2,200 of that total $11,000 bill, and it's money that we had already budgeted for in this year's budget, so we would be able to absorb it within our 2015 budget.
Al, can you describe what MPO is for
I'm
people
sorry.
that don't?
The MPO stands for Metropolitan Planning Organization. The Metropolitan Planning Organization, or the Janesville Area MPO, includes the city of Janesville as well as the city of Milton and its surrounding townships. They are the conduit that we have for all transportation dollars that are sent to us from the federal government. So we work with the MPO to develop our long-range transportation plan, as well as look towards the federal funding sources to include in our traffic enhancement programs and things of that nature. So it's a consortium of governmental entities that surround the Janesville area that we belong to. That was probably a long answer than you needed.
No, I think that was a very thorough answer.
What's the point of adding the 2 intersections if you don't have records of these from 2013 to compare them to?
We get a lot of we get questions about the traffic count down at Milton West, just how much is there, and also at the intersection here, we would be able to see how much is coming in on 59 and actually going out towards Hankey Road, or coming to the downtown, or just actually cutting across. We just don't have which way the traffic's going in those areas. And there are some older DOT numbers for the Highway 59 coming in, like from Edgerton, from that way, and so we could compare the new numbers with those just to see how much it's gone up or down, and also the County M traffic coming in, so.
I mean, is there something you want to do with those intersections? If, let's say the number here went down significantly?
No, it's just the information, that's all those ones are. There's no construction project planned for those, it's just to.
I mean, let's say with the traffic lights or anything,
We could check out, actually on this one, you could see if you need arrows or pedestrian, those types of things. Also down at the other one, they'll have left and right turning, so you'll know if you ever need a traffic signal down there.
Anything else? Do I have a motion to authorize and update our average daily traffic counts within the city of Milton?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion or questions? All those in favor? All those opposed? The motion carries. Item number 8, discussion and possible action on the acceptance of a bid for the demolition of the former police department building located at 120 Parkview Drive.
This project has kind of been on the periphery for quite a while. We've been moving forward with this. We went through the asbestos abatement process, and it took a little bit longer than we'd hoped. We'd hoped to bring this to you before school started, but we are literally a day late. We've received bids from. We received a competitive bid from Earth Construction in the amount of $22,000, which would demolish the former police garage over at 120 Parkview Drive, as well as the concrete foundation, and it would fill in the reservoir that exists underneath that building, and then also, kind of prepare that site after it's been demolished for the interim or long-term use of grass. So really, we'd be looking for the council to accept the bid from Earth Construction LLC to demolish the former police building at 120 Parkview Drive for $22,000. And if you have any questions for Howie or I, Howie's been working on this for quite a while.
And the one, they were $1,000 less than the second quote we received, and about $12,000 less than the third quote. Also, we're, on all three, or all of the people, we were gonna haul the fill material, but this was the only one that's gonna actually compact it and reseed it for us as part of the price too. So you would still see the Public Works guys hauling fill material there, but this one will, compact it and put it in for us, so. And he said he could possibly have this done by, it's a little later than we wanted, but probably the first week of October, it should be finished, so.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I have a question, and is this the amount that we received for the Crossridge Park gas line?
It's darn close. For that, we received $25,600. This bid was $22,000, but we've already invested $22,39 in asbestos. Do you remember that number? I don't know why. That sounds right to me for some reason.
I think it may have been a little bit closer to 3,000.
Okay.
But we're gonna be right at, just about all of the easement money is gonna be spent,
Yeah.
Within a few dollars, it will all be spent, that we received from the Crossridge gas easement, so.
And just, Lana, just so the record are clear, that as I understand, speaking with Howie, that bids were not submitted in this case, proposals were submitted, just so the record is clear on that, because there's difference in the process involved with the two.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? The motion carries. Okay, general items.
I have a couple of questions, and this goes back to what we've had on the agenda, the first one. Can we use our MPO funds to help fund the Innovative Express?
No, we wouldn't be able to. The MPO funds, they wouldn't be able to be used for public transportation services like that, especially operations of a public transportation service. We can use those for operations and other aspects of the transportation network, but not in that regards, no.
My other question is, I was just wondering if we have any new information on the municipal conference?
I don't, are you on their email list?
No, actually I'm not, but I am interested in going, and I know that the conference is in October.
Oh, you mean the League of Wisconsin
Right.
Municipalities? Oh, yeah. I just know when the conference is, and it happens to start the day before baby's due date, so I will likely not be attending.
So if you go on to the League of Municipalities website, you can find out that information. Okay. Any other general items from anybody? Our next meeting date is Tuesday, September 15th, 2015, but we're not meeting at 7. Aren't we meeting earlier?
Well, that day is going to be a day full of fun and frivolity for all involved. On September 15th, the day will start with all of us at 4. From 4 to 6 will be the team building. Then at 6 o'clock, we will have Plan Commission. Then at 6:30, we'll have Public Safety. Then at 6:45, we'll have Personnel and Finance. And then at 7 o'clock, we'll have City Council. So, make sure you bring your red bull.
September 10th meeting that's joint. I just,
There's also a September 10th joint meeting of, is it Town of Milton and City of?
Town of Milton.
Yeah.
Town of Milton, City of Milton, and that's at 6
6.
o'clock here. And September 9th,
Yes.
there's an open house at Black Hawk Tech. Oh, I know what I was going to say. We're going to provide you dinner September 15th.
Will everybody be here that day? Nancy be back from Ireland?
Yes, she will. With lots of gifts for us, I'm sure. No, I'm just kidding.
Shepherd's pie for everybody that night.
And a Stein. Okay. All right. We're done with general items. We're done with the next meeting date. Okay, so our team building exercise is going to be really, really short tonight. So, one word or a phrase, 3 or 4 words. So, summer is wrapping up. School has started, so technically it's the end of summer. So, in one word or a short phrase, describe how the summer went for you. And where would we like to start? Jeremy. Okay, perfect. Do you want to go to the you choose. Do we go to the left or to the right?
Fast. Too fast.
Okay.
Pregnancy.
It was the best of times. It was the worst of times.
amazing.
Terrific.
Awesome.
Addition to family.
Moving. Enough said.
Howie.
Too short.
Yeah, too fast.
Great and too fast.
Okay, great. All right. You guys were so positive. I am so proud of you. Okay. I don't think I have anything for mayor reports. I think we went over everything. Any alderperson reports or committee updates or anything?
I just would like to mention for the Park and Recs Commission, I want to remind everyone that we do have our prairie seed collection on Saturday, October 17th. It's from 10 to 1 at Crossridge Park. The rain date is the following Saturday, which would be the 24th. And will be more information out on that. And I'm trying to get everybody involved in this early because it's a fun team building event just as well as it's a fun, relaxing, and educational event. And then I also would like to make this challenge to our parents in the community. I would like to challenge them to have their children walk or ride their bicycles to school one day a week and carpool one day of the week, and we'll just start with that.
Thank you, Linda. Is there any other alderperson reports?
Yes, from the ad hoc committee on policies, where we had come to an agreement of a tentative format for procedures dealing with council seat openings. We'll be putting that together between now and September 15th. Hopefully talk about a tentative procedure at our next meeting.
Yep.
And hopefully we can have that wrapped up then by the beginning of October.
Perfect. Thank you. Anyone else? Jeremy, is there anything exciting going on at the county level?
Budget.
Okay. Okay, staff report, city administrator.
We talked about this kind of under the next meeting item, but we have a lot of meetings coming up in the month of September, more than we typically do. And the schedule has kind of been juggled around a little bit in order to adjust to specific items as well as schedules. But after tonight, we're actually free for the rest of the week, which is great. But next week, Tuesday, would be our normal Plan Commission night, but we will not have Plan Commission next week, Tuesday. Wednesday night, we're all free. Then Thursday night, we have our joint town city meeting. Then the following week, we will have our Plan Commission meeting on the 15th. So Plan Commission and Council will be on the same night, but separate meetings. So, and then on the 17th of that week is when we have our public open house on the comprehensive plan, which will be kind of the unveiling of the final draft version of that plan. It'll be another opportunity for public to see the plan and to provide any kind of update or suggestions that they have, last minute updates or suggestions to that plan. And then we hope to bring that forward to the council for adoption on October 6th. So that process has played out from winter to spring to summer, and then with full adoption in the fall. And it's exciting to see that plan come to a close. And the nice thing is with the direction the council gave tonight, it's very likely that we will be able to start implementing portions of that plan come next spring, which is a very rare thing in government to be able to do. So I think the staging of it was well staged, and we'll be able to see the fruits of everyone's labor hopefully as early as next spring, and then we'll be on to the next.
A party.
Then
we can have a
we'll
party
be on
on
the next issue then. And then lastly, September 17th, then unfortunately our work's not done. We'll start up with budget study sessions in October, and we're going to meet with the mayor tomorrow to talk about some potential schedules. But Dan and I were talking about maybe even having a budget study session yet here in September. So I will most certainly have a child at the end of October. Dan most certainly thinks the Cubs will be in the World Series, so we'd like to get a jump on a couple of those things. So that's all I have.
Sounds good. Okay, we do not have chief of the Joint Fire Department, but we do have our chief of the Police Department here, who I'm sure has lots of updates for us.
I just have a couple. By any account related to the police department, good first day of school today. And so no public safety issues that I'm aware of, and just another reminder to beware of your speed and pedestrians and everything around our school district. The last time that we met, I think I mentioned to you that we were talking about using South Janesville Street as a pickup point for Milton East students. After that meeting, Jen Kramer, the principal, and I met and revisited that decision, so we have decided not to do that. She thought it was going to be too much change in the previously established patterns and might create more confusion than solution. So we decided to continue with the same pickup points that we've had in prior years, and I'll be visiting with her right before the end of the week to see how that went. So I think school went well, and off to a great start. Second piece that I just want to make you aware of is the first Coffee with the Chief event has been scheduled. That's going to be Wednesday, September 16th from 8 to 10 at Charming Bees. So I hope some people will come out and see me. I'll buy you coffee. Between 8 and 10.
So do you want people other than just city council to come?
Well, I'd love to see all of you there.
Then we have to post it.
Then you'd have to post it, but I'd also like to see some people that maybe I haven't had a chance to reach yet. So. 8 to 10 a.m. Wednesday the 16th. And what I plan on doing is rotating this event around at various other places in town. So this is just the first one.
Perfect. Thank you. City Clerk, Deputy Treasurer.
There, none.
No elections or anything? Come on.
No.
Director of Public Works.
Brush collection starts next week, after this weekend, and the splash park is scheduled to be open for 2 more weeks. This
That's
week and
awesome,
next
because
week.
it was really crowded today.
Yeah, it was a lot of after-school traffic.
Yeah, we are not going to let summer slip through our hands anytime soon. Director of the library.
Excited to announce that fundraising for the expansion is now over 1.5 million. Our fundraising committee has been doing an awful lot of hard work. Part of that is due to, it's really like a museum quality children's area that's going to have storefronts. They're each sponsored by local businesses at $15,000 a piece. They're going to be areas where kids can learn and play at the same time. 4 out of the 6 have now been sponsored by local businesses. We'll make an announcement then who all those businesses are. So thank you to them. And we have some upcoming makerspace programs. We have a robotics one coming up in September and a circuit bracelet making workshop. So
And we can all attend those.
yes.
Great, exciting. Okay, Dan.
Al stole my thunder, so.
Okay.
And it was playoff baseball. I wasn't thinking.
It
about
wasn't
serious.
monetary stuff. Okay, with that, do I have a motion to adjourn? Second?
Second.
All those in favor? All right, all those opposed? The motion carries. Great.